The garden only appeared at night. No one knew this because no one had ever stayed awake long enough to see it. Until Nora. "Hi there, little one. I'm Cozy Bear. Tonight, in the oldest part of a very old forest, a young owl named Nora is about to find something that was there all along, waiting for exactly her at exactly this moment. Settle in, little dreamer. Here we go. There's a forest that has been growing for so long that the oldest trees have stopped counting rings and simply continued. Their roots go down to places where the earth keeps different time. Their branches reach up to where the stars seem almost close enough to name individually. Between them, in the green and shadowed spaces, things grow that grow nowhere else. Ferns that curl like sleeping questions, moss that is softer than any bed ever made, and flowers that open only in darkness, their petals pale as moonlight, their scent something between rain and memory. Most creatures in this forest were asleep by now, but Nora was not most creatures. Nora was a young owl in her first full year of flying alone at night, and she was, despite herself, a little bit lost. Not dangerously lost. Not the kind of lost that required rescuing or that her mother would need to know about. Just the kind of lost where the familiar paths have given way to unfamiliar ones and you're not entirely sure which tree you are in relation to which other tree in relation to home. Nora landed on a branch and turned her head all the way to the right, then all the way to the left. The forest looked the same in every direction, beautiful, ancient, dark, and none of it was telling her anything useful about where she was. She ruffled her feathers. She was a small owl, brown, speckled, and round-faced, with eyes like two full moons, large and pale and serious, and the particular expression of someone who has just realized they should have paid more attention about 20 minutes ago. "All right," she said to no one in particular. "All right thing." And that was when she smelled it. Something sweet, something green, something that had no name she could put to it. Only the feeling of having smelled it before in a dream she couldn't quite remember. And below it, below the branches and roots and deep moss, a light, not moonlight, not the cold blue of stars, warm, cold green, soft as held breath, coming from somewhere she could not quite see, between two roots, behind the curtain of hanging fern, a light that should not have been there and absolutely was. Nora stared at it. She had excellent eyes, owl eyes designed for exactly this kind of dark, and what she saw made no immediate sense, which she had found was usually a good sign. She glided down from her branch without making a sound. Owls are good at this, and landed at the edge of the hanging fern. She pushed it gently aside with one wing and stepped through. The garden was not large. It would have fit inside the space between 4 trees, which was in fact exactly where it was. But what it lacked in size, it made entirely up for in everything else. Flowers. Nora had no names for, grew in quiet clusters. White and cream and pale silver, glowing faintly with the light that seemed to come from inside them rather than landing on them from above. Moss covered every surface. The roots, the fallen log at the center, the stones that edged a small round pools in deep perfect green. The pool itself was still and clear and reflected the stars so precisely that looking into it felt like looking through rather than at. And above it all, the 4 old trees leaned in slightly, the way old things lean toward what they love, making a roof of branches through which the light of a single perfect star came down like a thin silver thread. Nora stood at the edge and did not move for a very long time. Some places require that. Some places ask you, just by being themselves, to be still before you enter further. "You found it," said a voice. Nora turned. On the fallen log at the center, almost invisible against the moss, sat a very old toad. He was exactly the green of the garden around him. Not camouflage, Nora thought, but belonging. The difference between hiding and simply fitting. His eyes were gold and very bright, and looked at her with the particular expression of someone who has been waiting for a specific visitor and is pleased the right one has arrived. "I found something," said Nora. "I'm not entirely sure what." "The garden," said the toad. "Most don't." He shifted slightly on the log. "My name is Moss. I've kept this place for a long time. It doesn't need much keeping. Gardens like this mostly keep themselves, but it helps to have someone here who knows it exists." "How long has it been here?" asked Nora. Moss considered. "Longer than the trees," he said. "Longer than the forest. This garden was here first. Everything else grew around it." Nora moved carefully into the space, stepping between the flowers rather than over them, the way the garden seemed to invite, and sat on a root near the edge of the pool. "What is it for?" she asked. Moss tilted his ancient head. "What are you for?" he replied, not unkindly, just returning the question to where it belonged. Nora thought about this. She was for flying at night, for watching for the particular silence of an owl in motion, that held breath moment when the whole forest doesn't know you're there. She was for being curious, for finding things, for apparently stepping through hanging ferns into places that should not exist and absolutely did. "I think," she said slowly, "it's for the ones who stay awake to find it." Moss looked at her for a long moment. Then he made a sound, low and pleased, that might, in a toad, have been a laugh. "Precisely," he said. "It has always been here. for exactly those ones. For you, in fact. It has been here for you all along. You simply had to be lost enough to find it. Nora sat in the garden for a long time. Not because she was still lost. She wasn't anymore. Somewhere in the last few minutes, she had become, without noticing, entirely found. She sat because she didn't want to leave. She watched the starlight come down through the roof of her branches. She watched the flowers doing their quiet, luminous thing. She watched the pool holding its perfect reflection of a sky she could not see directly from where she sat. The garden showed her the sky in the water instead. Sometimes she thought, you need the reflection to see the real thing clearly. Can I come back? She asked Moss. You already know the way, said Moss. You've always known the way, you just hadn't needed it yet. But I was lost, said Nora. Yes, said Moss. That's how you found it, that's always how. Nora left the garden the way she had come, through the hanging fern back into the wider forest, and found without surprise that she knew exactly where she was. The familiar trees, the familiar path of air between them, the familiar shape of home, waiting in the dark the way home always waits, patient, lit entirely itself. She flew back slowly, taking her time, the garden scent still with her, green and sweet, and the thing with no name that was between rain and memory, and thought about what Moss had said. You were lost enough to find it. That's always how. There are things, little one, that can only be found by those who wander, not the ones who know exactly where they are going, not the ones who never take the wrong path, but the ones who end up somewhere unexpected and are brave enough to push the fern aside and step through anyway. The lost moments, the uncertain ones, the times when you don't know which tree you are in relation to which other tree, those are not mistakes. Those are the path to the garden. Your garden is out there, little one. It has always been there, waiting in the dark, glowing quietly, for you, for exactly you at exactly the right moment. You just have to stay curious long enough to find it. And you will. You absolutely will. Good night, little dreamer. Sweet, sweet dreams. And that, little one, was tonight's story. Cozy Bear hopes you have the most wonderful, magical dreams tonight. See you next time. Good night.